All right. All right. Test, test, test. I think I'm being able to be heard, which is great. Welcome, everyone, inside the LPGA Mediheal Championship Virtual Media Center here in San Francisco. I am happy to be joined by Lydia Ko here. Just some housekeeping things. We do ask that you mute yourself until I do open it up for questions in just a bit. If you have a question, please let me know that you have one in the chat function of this call so that in a little bit when I open it up for questions, we can call on you to unmute yourself and you can ask Lydia whatever you like. So with that, Lydia, thank you for joining us here today. How are you feeling on this wonderful San Francisco morning?
Yeah, it's actually a really nice day out. I think we've had 4 straight days where you can kind of see the sun, which is really nice, considering it can get pretty chilly. But good to be back. Obviously, with last week only been 10 minutes from here. It's nice to have a couple of weeks where you don't have to move hotels or housing, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the second week of us playing here in San Francisco.
Real quick, Lakin, can we just make sure her mic is on? Just before it gets too crazy.
Oh.
I didn't see it moving, but that was a beautiful answer.
Oh, okay. Nobody needs to hear me. We're going to do miming today.
Mine?
It's on.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Did you see anything on there?
I don't. Oh, say it again.
Hello?
There we go.
We're good?
Mm-hmm. All right. Just wanted to make sure they can hear you.
Okay.
Love that too. You talk about not having to change hotels and getting used to kind of this San Francisco air. Just talk us through your experience last week at the Olympic Club and what it meant to be playing so close to even this event, but also just in San Francisco in general.
Yeah, obviously it's super convenient for us to not have to drive or even fly somewhere new for the next event, and it doesn't happen very often for us, so really nice. And when I saw that the 2 tournaments was going to be back to back, it's just a really easy kind of transition from one week to another. The Olympic Club was a beast, but I enjoyed it so much. I think it was a true test of what a major championship should be like and what a US Women's Open should be like. So I think it's a great lead out to this event. This event has some tricky holes as well, and I think with the weather and temperature being pretty similar, I'm guessing between the 2 weeks, hopefully we would have done a lot of adjustments last week and kind of help that for us this week.
All right, if we could just fix that real quick.
When did this fall? Oh, really? I just looked and I was like, is that meant to be like that? A second upside down ice cream cone.
Do you mind holding it? Is that okay? I know.
No.
Appreciate everyone's patience through this.
I think it's amazing. Every time
I
try to
feel
do that.
we've had that discussion, I feel like every time.
Yeah.
With actually, if we could switch mics, just so, because I can talk pretty loud. Perfect. All right, we'll try this again. You come into this event, you're so comfortable on this course. Before we open it up to questions, just you are coming into this event already a 2021 winner. Where do you feel in your game as you get ready for the Mediheal Championship?
Yeah, obviously last week wasn't the week that I had hoped for, but in general I actually played really solid. Sometimes you were going to hit good shots and you were still in the rough, and when you go in the rough it was pretty thick there, but I think it's a great lead up, and even with this week aside, I think just last week itself was such a fun challenge. Yes, it was stressful, but I enjoyed every moment of it. And this course, since it became a Mediheal Championship, they flipped the nines, so that's obviously a little different. And they changed a couple of the holes in the past few years as well. But you have to be. I think your ball striking needs to be on, and it tends to be pretty windy here, so just kind of having that under control. But it's I wish I was coming into this week playing a little better, but I feel like it wasn't far off, and it was just a handful of, not so good shots last week that ended up becoming a few higher scores, and that can happen really easily, especially at a U.S. Women's Open. But hopefully I'll be able to keep, maintaining and continuing the good feels and the positives from last week, and work on the things that I feel like needs to be fine-tuned these next couple days for the Thursday's first round.
All right, Steve, I know you have a couple questions. If you would like to attempt the microphone.
Hi. When you won here in 2015, it was kind of a new experience for you at the time. And then you win again in 2018 where it's kind of a comeback experience. Well, you've already won this year. You've been on a very good upward trend. How are the feelings different coming back this year as opposed to the other two wins here?
I think every single time it was like very different. Just the situation I was in, just the way I was playing leading up to the event. To be honest, in 2018, I think I had played the Hugel LPGA in LA the week prior, and I was so stressed out after the week in LA. Not necessarily like obviously with my game, but like, I feel like I couldn't hole anything. I wasn't striking ball striking wasn't there. But then it shows like week to week things can change, and I think golf is one of the big sports where someone could literally miss 7 cuts in a row and then win on the 8th week. Yes, it's I think it's really good to be on a good momentum and confidence run coming into an event, but I think if you have your feels and you know what you're doing, what happened last week or what happened the day before was what already happened, and you can just focus on what's in front of you. I think, because situation has been different, it's really hard to compare, but I'm just excited to be here. Sad that we couldn't be here last year, which was the first time in a while that, we couldn't play this golf course, but, I'm excited. Hopefully I'll be able to hit my fair share of good shots and, roll some good putts and see where that puts me at the end of the week.
And I remember being here in 2015, and the take for people describing Lydia was precise, not incredibly long, great deft touch around the greens. Nobody says you're short anymore. Tell me the difference in your game now as opposed to then.
Yeah, I think I'm probably carrying the driver approximately like 20 yards further than I was then. So in some perspectives, I think it makes me change my course management a little bit, and that actually happened throughout the week last week, where when I actually played the practice rounds and the advanced practice rounds as well, it was a lot colder, and you're not in that tournament adrenaline mode as well, so you're obviously going to hit it shorter. And tournament you're going to hit it further and further. So there were some holes where I, like number 18 in the practice days, I was okay driver, just get down the bottom of the hill, and then by Thursday I was hitting 5 wood off the tee, and I could have really hit less, and that was also the case on some other holes as well. So it makes you have to think a little bit, and even last year when I played a few courses that I had before, at a shorter length, it made me think, okay, is driver still the right club? Or, now I can be a little bit more aggressive. So it just makes me think a little bit. And actually, I didn't play a practice round yesterday, but leading up to the week, I was thinking a few holes, okay, it might actually just be a 3 wood off the tee because it might be a better position to go into some of these greens, and it's not the narrowest fairways in the world, but it's not the widest out here as well. So I think positioning is such a big key, and especially normally with the greens being pretty firm out here, I think being on the fairways is going to be pretty crucial. So I just have to be smart, and sometimes, people might go, oh man, why is she hitting that club off the tee? But you just have to do what's right for you and what you feel most comfortable with, and I think I'm just trying to get a better gauge of that.
You have throughout your career been a master at managing expectations, not just your own, but the ones that people have of you. Was there a burden lifted this year after the victory where you're like, okay, that's behind us. Now I can focus on something else?
I think it was more, I wasn't putting as much pressure on myself, but I think the big thing that, since working with Sean was that he said, you know what, win is great, obviously, and you're going to be, super happy when that happens, but that's not going to make you a better person. It's not going to, be a life-changing moment just because of that win, whenever it comes. And I felt like that was a really good mindset for me to play in, and I wasn't putting added pressure, but it was more like when I did win in Hawaii, it was like just telling myself, hey, I can do this, I can be back in the winner circle. So it was more like proving it to myself than to other people at that moment. And I think that's what's most important. Even if everyone says, oh, you're so bad, or oh, this is this, I think if you believe in yourself, then I think that's it. And you can just focus on yourself and you believe in the work that you're doing. And I think it becomes the hardest when you're doubting yourself and you're doubting your process. And I feel like even though I hadn't won in a while, the last few weeks leading up, the last few months leading up to Hawaii, I think I was slowly building up confidence and belief in myself. And I think that was the more important thing. And just winning there kind of put the exclamation mark on that, just for, I think, me. And I think that's more important than anything else.
All right, Ron, I know you have some questions. If you'd like to unmute yourself, please. We can now.
Great. Lydia, thanks for your time. Welcome back to the Bay Area. You talked about the logistical sort of advantages of back-to-back. I'm curious if you can compare the courses. It seems like there's some similarities in San Francisco golf and the trees and the layouts at Olympic Club and Lake Merced. But how in what ways is it different? In what ways is it similar at Lake Merced?
I haven't seen the golf course yet, so I don't exactly know how firm, fast, soft, how long the rough is out there. But I think the layout itself, there's some dogleg holes, which was also the case last week. So those things are pretty similar. There are some narrow holes where you could still be on the fairway, but it's a better angle from another section of the fairway, which is kind of the case last week as well. So those things are similar. I think the greens here are Poana, whereas last week it's bent. So that's a little bit different. But I think the greens, the grass around the greens and just off the fairways are pretty similar as well. But this course, I think, it's not super demanding, but I think you do need to be pretty accurate off the tee, and it's just gonna give you way more opportunities to go at pins, and especially if it's windy, which has been the case the past few times we've been here. It plays a very handy card in your hand. So yeah, I think those are probably some of the major differences and similarities between the two courses.
Just two other quick questions. I'm curious your perspective on what it's going to be like for Lexi to come back here 3 days later and play again. I mean, you've won some majors, and I'm sure there's been final rounds where you haven't played well and maybe lost the lead. How difficult is it to come back so quickly, 3-4 days later, and what were sort of the ways you bounced back from disappointments such as the one she had Sunday?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, everyone can agree that Lexi played incredible golf. It's if she had, obviously it wasn't the finish that she had wished for, but if you put that back nine into, let's say, the back nine of a Thursday, it's not really a big of a deal. I think I'm 14 over on the back nine, so I know for a fact she played a lot better than me. She played amazing golf, and Yuka and Nasa just played a little better, and obviously Yuka ended up winning, which was amazing. But yeah, I think no matter what happened, nobody can take away from Lexi how great golf she played, and especially the golf that she played on Saturday. That was absolutely incredible. I don't know how you have a bogey-free round there or on any other golf course, but especially around there. So I think I'm sure there may be disappointment, but she still played incredible, and I'm sure she's going to still come into this week with a lot of confidence, as she should, because it's pretty hard to it's hard to win, but it's also hard to be contending at those kind of moments. So what she did was great. So I'm sure she's going to put on a great show again this week.
And one last question. Yuka's obviously only 19. The other one was 22, the Japanese player. I believe Megan Gani's only 17. And there's a lot of young players in contention at Olympic Club. I think sort of speaks to the next wave of youth here on the LPGA Tour. I'm curious your take on all these young players, why they're able to contend in a major like that, and maybe how it's different than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much talent, and golf is a sport where, I mean, literally age is just a number. Obviously, the more, time you play on tour and the more experience you have that can play to your advantage, going down the road, and experience is such a big thing. But just because you're 19, doesn't necessarily mean she can't win a major. And what she did was amazing. And, the playoff holes, they were so good. Even when they were out of position, they hit some incredible shots to give themselves looks for birdies. I played with Yuka for the first time at the U.S. Women's Open practice round, I think in 2019. And I was like, I had heard about her and I had seen her swing from afar, and I was like, wow, this is super impressive. And I actually played a practice round with her last week as well. And weirdly, I'm only 24 and I was the youngest one and the oldest one in the group, which is weird to think because I used to always be the young one. But yeah, no, super impressive. I saw something everyone was saying, Yuka swings like Rory, but now it could be Rory swings like Yuka, those kind of things. And I think it's great. And I think Rory watched her and supported her, which is super awesome to kind of see. Also, the men's golf, keeping a good eye on our U.S. Women's Open as well. But yeah, super impressive. It's great to see different names and new names, and I'm sure they're names that we're going to see a lot down the future as well. So it's great for the women's golf, and I think hopefully through this, the golf, the game itself will keep growing.
Thanks, Lydia. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron. Once again, if you have any questions for Lydia, please let me know in the chat function. Barry, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Okay. Unmute myself?
Yes.
Good. Hey, Lydia, you touched on it just a few minutes ago. How much do you pre-strategize about how you're going to play each hole and each course? Do you think that far in advance about how you're going to do it, or do you wait till you get to the hole, or talk about that?
I don't pre-strategize a lot. It's because it really depends on how the course is playing, and every year it could play differently, every day it could play differently. So I think when I'm playing practice rounds, that's when I get most of my course management work done and see, if the wind changes or if, the firmness of the fairways changes. Then I also think, okay, what is the next option when, things change? So I think it's mostly done during practice rounds. And then, before tournament day, I always like to see the wind direction and kind of go through my yardage book to see, how that course is going to play. And especially around a course like this where it can blow, I think the wind direction is a huge factor. But I think most of the time, the wind direction is a constant. It's pretty consistent, and it comes from the same direction. So hopefully I'll be able to strategize well and, get ready for Thursday.
Now, I know you can't speak for other players, but I noticed when I was looking at the field, there were several players who played last week at the U.S. Women's Open that are not here this week. Why would it's such an easy travel situation like you alluded to? Why would they not?
I think some players played the last couple weeks, and it's, this is, I think Kingsmill was the start of a long stretch of events. going. I think it's non-stop pretty much until the Irish Open if you wanted to keep playing them all. But we have 3 majors in between these stretch, and to some, they may want to play the week prior to a major championship, which our next one is KPMG in 3 weeks. So they may not want to play 4 or 5 weeks straight in a row. Major championship, yes, you try and think of it not anything differently to another event, but I think when you are especially in contention or you're in those kind of featured groups, it can be a little bit more energy draining than you think. So I'm sure with all these amazing events, yes, players want to play all of it, and it's a great opportunity, but at the end of the day you really can't do everything, so I'm sure it's just to get ready maybe for the next one and make sure that they're rested and recovered for the other events that are coming up.
One more question. You mentioned future names, and I was looking at the field. Not exactly a future name, but there's only been a really small handful of players that have won here at Lake Merced, and Haru Nomura is one of them. And I haven't seen her on TV for a long time. And she's in the field this week. Talk about her a little bit and about why just a select few of you have only ever won here, including Minji, who won in the junior girls.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know why it's only a handful of players that have won here. But in saying that, this tournament hasn't been around it's not been a tournament that's been around for 10 years plus, where a lot of the tour players have been coming. We obviously, it was a swinging skirts event before. For some of us, we played the U.S. Junior Girls. And now a Mediheal Championship. So it's just, I think things have changed, and it's also been at different parts of the year as well. So it's just, I don't think it's been like a regular stop for the tour in general for a long period of time. So that's why it could be a smaller selection. But Haru, I love Haru. I think she has one of the best personalities on tour. She's goofy, she's funny, she's really nice, and really caring. And actually, the week before the Lotte Championship, she was there early and I was there early in Hawaii, so we played golf with a friend out at Turtle Bay, which was really nice. And yeah, I always love her company, and she's a multiple-time winner on the LPGA, so she clearly knows how to get it done, and hopefully she'll have a good week here, and hopefully I'll have a good week here as well.
Great. Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Barry. We're going to wrap with Kent. Kent, if you'd like to ask your question, we just need to make sure Lydia makes her practice round time.
Yes.
Hey, Lydia, this is the last time the LPGA is going to play Lake Merced on this layout with the renovation coming later on this year. How did you react when you found out the course was changing, and how does it feel to play this course one last time under this setup?
Hopefully I finish strong on this setup. I haven't seen the exact layout of it, but when I came out here a few weeks ago, I heard that I think they were going to start in November or something and go till October, or it starts in October and goes till November, one of those two. But I think I think they said they're going to lengthen some of the holes, make the holes a little differently. I think Gil Hans is meant to be doing the new, layout of it, and he's a really popular golf architect right now. So I'm excited to see what it will be like at the end. Obviously, it won't have the same feel as it is now because I've played here, pretty much every single time that we've come here as a tour. But even now, a few holes have changed since I've been playing this golf course as well. And sometimes it's hard to make that change and kind of that step forward. But I'm sure the club and the members are super excited, for this kind of one step ahead. And maybe the new venue may make it a stop for us, later, or it could be where the men's play or a major championship comes in place. So yeah, I'm sure this is very exciting for the golf club.
Thanks, Lydia.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, Lydia.